Welcome back. And today we're obviously going to talk about genetically modified organisms. And I kind of think of it as selective breeding on steroids. It really is super fast compared to selective breeding, but it does serve kind of the same purpose. The only additional part is it also involves transferring genes between species. Okay, so we are just really ramping up the selecting of breeds, the selecting of different types. So you remember, let's just say, I'll give you a quick little rundown of what happens here. You have organism 1. So organism 1 is your plant or your animal that you want to keep going. Maybe it's a certain type of corn, for instance. And organism 2 has a trait. You're not really interested in so much in organism 2, but it has a trait that you would love to see in organism 1. So you take the genes for a trait and you move it into this organism. And so now you have an organism with this new trait. It could be things like resisting cold, severe cold, to prevent frost. Or maybe it's a trait like be able to produce different types of vitamins. Okay. For instance, one thing that's been done is called golden rice. So rice is a real big staple of many different diets across the planet, but it's lacking in specific vitamins. And so we might find an organism that has this vitamin producing capabilities and put it into rice. Then we have golden rice. Okay. So what are some concerns? Why is this such a... And if you haven't heard any controversial things, I look at the news once in a while. Might help. So what are some concerns that people have? I'm going to think of these as the cons. Okay. Number 1, allergies. We're pretty much head down what types of food might cause certain types of allergies. Like if you had a peanut allergy, you stayed away from peanuts. Or if you had an allergy to another type of food, you stay away from that food. Well, what happens now if we're mixing these genes in different organisms? Now it becomes very tough to figure out where is that gene coming from, and what from this organism, was it that gene that really caused the allergies? Well, if that is, then now you have 2 organisms that potentially have that. Now, for mixing all these things, it's really difficult to stay away from those types of organisms. Okay? Another concern. Really concerned with creating of super organisms. Okay? We'd love to be able to create plants that are let's say, resistant to some sort of herbicide. Okay, like for instance Roundup. Roundup's a pretty popular one. If we spray Roundup on plants, they die. Well, what if we create a plant that is resistant to that trait, to that Roundup? Excuse me. And so if we spray all of our crops with this Roundup after that, well, the ones that are resistant to Roundup will survive and everything else will die. Wow, what a way to get rid of weeds. It would be wonderful. Outstanding. Problem is we're scaring is we're worried that these genes meaning that some of the weeds will pick up this resistance gene, which has been known to happen. So that is a concern, a real concern. Okay? So what are the pros then? Why are we doing this? What are the pros to doing this? Well, again, I mentioned before, create pest-resistant crops. No more need for pesticides. If we have crops that are resistant to pests, We don't need to kill the pests. They just are not affected. We don't have to have those chemicals in the environment. So because of that, it is good for the environment. If we put it in at the gene level, we have less chemicals to spray onto our crops. Okay? And 3, I mentioned this with golden rice, is we can create more nutritious food. Always a good thing. Okay, so I hope that helped.